Okay, now we're going to talk about some tools of the trade. These are instruments that I find very helpful. Some of them are just mandatory. You have to have them. So we'll kind of get right into it. The first is, of course, the dummy or the bumper. People call it different names. The dummies come in all different shapes, all different sizes. You can see some bigger, some smaller. Bigger ones are better to get your dog used to holding a bigger object, a bigger bird. They have, a lot of them have ridges on them so that they don't bite into them. Gives them something to hold on to, which is easier. Dummies also come in canvas, which are great for young dogs and for puppies because of their soft teeth primarily. They also come in various sizes, but also because you can saturate a canvas dummy with scent, which is important for a young dog because you want to, everything you do is geared towards success. So the easier it is for a young dog to pick up scent, the more successful you're going to be. It will blow your mind, as it does mine, with these pieces of plastic, basically, how a dog can spin at 30 yards because they pick up this scent when the wind is right. It's really quite remarkable. And that's better for a young, I find for an older dog, you don't want to necessarily saturate with scent. You want them to work a little bit harder to use their nose. Another extremely helpful and popular retrieving dummy are the Tom Dokken retrieving dummies that are great because the dog can hold on to them very well. They feel like a bird when the dog is carrying it, and I promise you this will be your dog's favorite dummy in the bag. If you work from a pile and you put a dozen dummies down, this is going to be the first one he's going to bring back. I guarantee you that. These also come in different sizes and different birds. You can get smaller teal or wood duck, and also they come as geese. With respects to Tom Dokken, the head fell off this one. I didn't replace it, but this is great because if you want your dog to bring back geese, this helps the dog get used to carrying a big object, a big heavier object. I don't recommend you throw it. I have a torn bicep to attest to that. Because they're just simply too heavy. I recommend you use these primarily when you work from a pile or from short distances, or if you hide it somewhere, or you have a friend throwing it on a blind retrieve. Then you get into what is really important, I think, is a retriever trainer. This you may have seen. These will actually shoot your dummy 40, 50 yards without any problem. The challenge sometimes is getting the right direction, the wind, so you just have to get used to them. But you cannot throw any of these dummies as far as you can launch one of these dummies. Now these work with a little 22 charge. The dummy fits right on top of it, and that's how you shoot it. Now these, they have some on the market right now that it seems to me that they come with triggers, which if I were doing this again, that's what I would really look into it, because this really gets kind of awkward and you have to do it the proper way. First time I ever did this without reading the manual, because no self-respecting man ever reads a manual before he does anything. I held it like this. I pulled the launch at the end, let it go, and I got a nice gash in my hand. So what I recommend whenever you do this, even if you throw it properly, use it properly, that you wear a glove. And the way you hold this, the instructions will come with it, is you hold it with the back of your hand facing you. Even then, sometimes it'll brush up against you. That's the importance of the glove. But then, and then that will launch. Now there are different dummies. There are these canvas, and there are these plastic. The plastic ones will go much further than the canvas ones, which is great especially if you're working in water. You can get this guy out 50 yards, so they're great for long retrieves, to get your dog used to distance, but also even if you're just working out your dog and you only have 20 minutes to get down to a lake or a pond, you launch a dozen of these, your dog's going to get a tremendous workout. The little flags are good because as they go in the air, they just flap, and it just helps catch the dog's attention. I am going to recommend retriever training brand. I don't usually get into recommending brands, but this is one by a different company, and it's softer, so it absorbs more water. Too much water, in my opinion, because then after you shoot the first one, the second or third is kind of boom. They don't fly really well. They're just too too heavy and wet. The Retriever Trainer brand, they're a little less absorbent and they just fly better. I like these much better. So that I would recommend those as well. These also come in different shapes and sizes. You know, you can get them camouflage, you can get them taller, longer. You can experiment. They're not cheap. These are $20 a piece. The whole kit starts for over $100, but it's a very, very effective tool for you to have. Certainly with younger dogs, the fact that you're hearing the charge of a shot is very important, because then they associate the sound of a gun with the launch of the bird. Very important. I know you younger guys and girls don't necessarily like to protect your ears, but it is like shooting a gun, so ear protection is always a good idea. And certainly the least expensive tool, at least in my little bag of tricks here, is this ball thrower, tennis ball thrower. You can pick these up very inexpensively in all kinds of stores, and don't be embarrassed about throwing a tennis ball for your dog. This thrower, just like the Retriever Trainers, can get your object out quite far. You can't throw a tennis ball as far as you can get this out. Again, you want to be careful about direction. You've got to use it and get used to how to try to pinpoint so that you're not wasting retrieves. You're getting it to where you want to throw it. These are very effective because when they hide themselves in brush, they're hard for the dogs to find. They need to use their nose for this, or on water. Extremely effective on water, especially with a little ripple where you throw them out, and if the tennis ball itself is not very fluorescent, it's sort of worn, it's harder for the dog to see. So that means the dog has to use its nose. It doesn't stand out as much on the water. So this is a really good tool for short money. And with all of these, you're going to need a lot of dummies for a number of reasons. One, you're going to lose some. You're going to throw some, they're going to get stuck up in a tree. You're just not going to be able to get them. Other times, your dog is just not going to be able to find one, and you're not going to be able to access perhaps where the dummy fell to go out and get it on your own. Even if you throw it in snow, not a good idea to work dogs in snow because you're going to lose dummies. Or even mud in a bog. Sometimes you throw a dummy, and if it lands like this straight down, you'd be surprised. It's going to sink into the mud. It's going to be out of the dog's sight, out of its smell, and it's not going to be able to find it. And you're going to need a lot because you're going to leave them sometimes in a spot where your dog can get at them, and these belong to them. They think these are theirs, and they want to chew them. So that's going to happen. And this is going to happen. And these, especially these, they're not cheap. You want to be careful about that. But the main point is you're going to lose them this way as well. Now this one is toast. This one can still be used. You can use it when you work from a pile, or you can still throw it, but without the rope, you're just not going to get it that far, as far out as you would like to get it.